In our everyday lives, danger can unexpectedly lurk around any corner, even during a routine walk down the street. But these cases go way beyond the typical abduction narratives. In these harrowing cases, a woman's life is ruined in a heartbeat. A seemingly trustworthy friendship becomes a couple's nightmare, and another woman's escape relies on a crucial lesson from her past. In January 1997, Rosalind McGinnis, a 12-year-old girl, was abducted while leaving her middle school in Wagner, Oklahoma. The circumstances leading up to her kidnapping were marked by domestic turmoil, as Rosalind and her siblings were living in a women's shelter with their mother, escaping abuse from Henri Michel Piet, Rosalind's stepfather. Henri Michel Piet, the perpetrator, lured little Rosalind into a van, and there began the traumatic ordeal that would last for nearly 2 decades. After her abduction, Rosalind was forced to travel to different locations across the state, all while living in tents with Piet and his 3 children. The group frequently moved around the country and occasionally returned to Oklahoma, where Rosalind was forced to send fake letters to her family, making it seem like she remained in the state. Throughout this period, which spanned approximately 20 years, Rosalind endured daily assaults from Piet. The truth only came to light when she managed to escape in June 2016 when she was 33 years old. But how did this all begin?
I've been waiting my whole life for somebody to find me.
Before abducting his stepdaughter, Henri Michel Piet began manipulating Rosalind McGinnis. He organized a wedding ceremony in the back of a van where he forced his teenage son to marry Rosalind. But Rosalind later admitted that Piet had been grooming her for a long time. The disturbing encounter began when Rosalind's single mother, who had separated from McGinnis's biological father, met Piet while distributing neighborhood watch flyers in Missouri. Subsequently, when Rosalind was only 10 years old, Piet relocated the entire family to Oklahoma. According to an affidavit, Piet's first attempt at grooming McGinnis took place at her home in Wagner, Oklahoma, specifically on the bottom bunk of a bunk bed. Rosalind claimed that the constant fear of Piet reappearing and taking her again haunted her for the rest of her life. After kidnapping Rosalind McGinnis from her school, Henri Michel Piet moved across multiple states before eventually making his way to Mexico in the year 2000. Once in Mexico, the couple found themselves living in a small tent in a rural village. In this foreign environment, Piet subjected Rosalind to a life of lies and survival. She was forced to adopt fake identities and beg on the streets to get some money. But over time, Rosalind adapted to her surroundings and got practical skills. In the village, she learned the craft of making and selling coffee, honey, and ice cream. During the 19 years of captivity, Rosalind McGinnis was forced to have 9 of Piet's children without the assistance of any medical professionals. She had her first child when she was 15 years old. To protect her children from the horrifying reality of their existence, Rosalind remained silent about her abduction and the ongoing abuse she suffered at the hands of Piet. For years, the children remained unaware of what was actually happening. In 2016, after 19 years of captivity under the control of Piet, Rosalind attempted to escape while healing from an improvised gallbladder surgery. She encountered an American couple in a grocery store in Mexico and took the chance to seek help. Using the money she had earned from selling goods, she arranged a taxi to take her and her children to the couple's home. When Piet was blacked out from drinking, she initiated her escape plan. Once she made it to the American couple's home, Rosalind went to the U.S. Embassy in Mexico City to tell them about the abuse she had been going through. Rosalind, who had already lost one son to escape the year before, eventually reunited with him after successfully escaping with her remaining 8 children. The FBI then launched a year-long manhunt for Henri Michel Piet. He was finally arrested in 2017 at the U.S. Embassy in Mexico City, where he attempted to apply for a U.S. passport. Piet was then extradited to the United States to face the legal consequences of what he had done to Rosalind. There, he was charged with multiple criminal offenses. At the age of 63, in 2019, Henri Michel Piet received a life sentence in prison. Additionally, he was ordered to pay a $50,000 fine and $50,000 in restitution to Rosalind McGinnis and her children. And finally, Rosalind McGinnis re-entered a world robbed from her for nearly 2 decades. Our next survivor is as strong as Rosalind, but it comes with a chilling twist. This time, a notorious serial killer enters the narrative. On June 24, 2002, Kara Robinson, a 15-year-old girl, and her friend Heather planned a casual day of lakeside fun in West Columbia, South Carolina. but Heather's mom asked them to water the garden before heading to the lake. Kara, looking to speed things up, took on the task while Heather showered. In the front yard, dressed in shorts and a t-shirt, Kara noticed a green Pontiac cruising down the street. It showed up again, this time pulling into Heather's driveway. A guy in his 30s, looking like a salesman with a stack of magazines, approached Kara with a smile. He started with some small talk and asked about adults at home. Kara, thinking they had already left for work, innocently shared this detail. Little did she know it played right into his hands. Trying to seem friendly, he got closer and started to mention some magazine samples. That's when things got uneasy. Suddenly, he pulled out a gun from his waistband and pressed it against Kara's head. And just like that, a seemingly ordinary day turned into a nightmare. Forced into a large storage bin in the back seat of the man's car, she found herself counting turns as he drove towards an uncertain destination. With the hum of classic rock filling the air and the scent of Marlboro Red cigarettes lingering, she focused on the details, even remembering the serial number inside the plastic container, where she knelt against her will. As they neared his apartment, he pulled over, handcuffed her, and muffled her with a gag. The cluttered apartment, shared with a guinea pig, a lizard, and other small creatures, became the stage for an 18-hour ordeal of assault. In an attempt to maintain control, she tried to keep him calm, offering to do something for him when he suggested food. She ended up sweeping his kitchen. In the early hours of dawn, as the man slept, Kara managed to free one hand from a pair of handcuffs attached to the bed frame. The circular clamp, tightened by a screw, was connected to a rope. Using her teeth, she unclipped a leather leg restraint tethered to the foot of the bed. She then tiptoed out the front door. Her focus was on making minimal noise as she unbolted the two locks. Kara took her chance and ran towards a car in the parking lot. After frantically flagging down two men, she finally got their attention. They took her to the police station, where she recounted her bone-chilling abduction. The officers asked her to guide them back to the man's apartment. But when they arrived at his apartment, they were met with an empty space. He was gone. Inside the apartment, however, a chilling discovery awaited them. A locked footlocker held newspaper clippings detailing the unsolved murders of three girls, Sophia Silva and sisters Katie and Kristen Lisk, all of whom had disappeared more than 5 years prior in Spotsylvania County, Virginia. At that point, they knew he was much more dangerous than they had thought. They got a serial killer. They also knew who he was: Richard Mark Edward Ivanitz. Sophia Silva, 16, vanished from her front stoop in the Loriella Park neighborhood of Spotsylvania, Virginia on September 9, 1996. A month later, her remains were discovered in a creek. The pattern continued on May 1, 1997, when Kristen, 15, and 12-year-old Katie Lisk were abducted from their home, only to be found 5 days later in the South Anna River. The cases remained unsolved until the abduction of Kara triggered a renewed investigation. Forensic evidence discovered at the crime scenes eventually matched materials found inside Ivanitz's home. The police also discovered 2 of Kristen's fingerprints inside the trunk of Ivanitz's car. On June 27, 2002, police tracked Ivanitz to Sarasota, Florida. During the high-speed chase, Ivanitz ran over spike strips and was caught by a police dog. He took his own life with a firearm. In August 2002, Ivanitz was officially declared responsible for the crimes within his jurisdiction. Kara's role in surviving the murders earned her $150,000 in reward money, a measure of justice for the families of Sophia and the Lisk sisters. The next case is the perfect example of how keeping calm in a tough situation can quickly get you out of it. And that is exactly what Jordan Dinsmore did, all while remembering what her mother said to her. On July 26, 2017, after finishing her shift at a local restaurant, 20-year-old Jordan Dinsmore returned to her apartment complex. As she stepped out of her car, 3 men appeared, pointing a gun and forcing her into the back seat of her 2009 Scion, with plans to drive to an ATM for a robbery. But Jordan's car was a stick shift, and the abductors didn't know how to drive it. They then made Jordan get into the driver's seat. She went to the nearby ATM and withdrew $300 while overhearing their plans of sexual assault at a place referred to as his auntie's house. At that moment, Jordan recalled her mother Beth Turner's advice based on Beth's own harrowing experience. Beth always said to never allow an attacker to take you to a second location where the threat escalates. Keeping this wisdom in mind, Jordan, upon returning to the car, left her seatbelt unbuckled. When the right moment arrived, she smoothly shifted the car into neutral, opened the driver's side door, and calmly exited while the car was moving at speeds of 30 to 40 miles per hour. And just like that, Jordan's quick thinking allowed her to escape a potentially more dangerous situation. After the failed attempt to drive Jordan's car, the kidnappers fled. In July 2017, 17-year-old Raquan DeJour Green and two 15-year-old accomplices, whose names were not disclosed due to their age, were arrested and found guilty of her kidnapping. Additionally, they were charged with at least 6 other violent crimes involving robberies and assaults, primarily targeting white individuals. Jordan, undeterred by the traumatic incident, graduated from the University of South Carolina with a major in criminal justice. Her bravery earned her compliments from her local sheriff's office. She even got the nickname James Bond. Our last case is the perfect example of how danger can lurk everywhere, even within those we trust the most. On November 3, 2016, police made a horrifying discovery. Kayla Brown, 30 years old, was found inside a shipping container on Todd Kolop's property in South Carolina. This discovery was made more than 2 months after Kayla and her boyfriend, Charlie Carver, had gone missing. But there was no sign of her boyfriend, Charlie Carver. Kayla told the police that Kolop had fatally shot Charlie as soon as they arrived at the property on August 31st. After the shooting, Kolop locked Kayla in the shipping container and subjected her to weeks of repeated sexual assault. But this wasn't an ordinary case. Investigators came across strange reviews on Amazon posted by Kolop for the tools and weapons he had used in the kidnapping and murder. But Kayla Brown was not Kolop's first victim. She was, however, the only one who survived. On August 31st, 2016, Kayla Brown and Charlie Carver went to Todd Kolop's Moore, South Carolina property for land clearing work. Brown, having previously done cleaning work for Kolop's real estate business, felt no reason to be suspicious about the meeting. Unfortunately, this time proved different. For the next 2 months, Todd Kolop kept Kayla Brown chained inside the shipping container, subjecting her to daily episodes of sexual assault. Occasionally, he would take her out for brief walks around the 96-acre property. On one occasion, Kolop pointed out 3 graves, insinuating that they contained buried individuals. In response, he said if she ever tried to escape, she would directly go into one of those graves. While confined in the shipping container, Brown had books and a DVD player given by Kolop. Her living conditions were tough. She was sleeping on 2 thin dog beds and only eating crackers and peanut butter. She adopted whatever strategies necessary to stay alive. But days after Kayla Brown and Charlie Carver visited Kolop's property, concerns arose. Carver's mother, Joanne Shiflett, became worried about her son's absence, initially thinking he simply worked too much. She grew increasingly uneasy with the prolonged silence. One of Brown's friends also sensed something was wrong and began asking questions. With some strange posts on the couple's social media accounts, friends and family members began worrying more and more. Yet, there were still no calls or texts. Sensing that an action should be taken, Joanne Shiflett decided to file a missing persons report and the police began their search. Investigators soon realized that Brown's phone had last pinged from a cell phone tower in the general area of Spartanburg County, though the location was imprecise. The breakthrough came when police delved into Brown's Facebook records, uncovering messages between her and Todd Kolop discussing work on his land, within the area where Brown's cell phone had last pinged. As investigators combed the 96-acre property, a distinct banging noise came from a sizable metal shipping container. Inside, they uncovered Kayla Brown, her neck and ankle bound with chains to prevent any attempt at escape. Detectives also discovered Carver's car spray-painted brown and left in the woods. During the harrowing 2 months of Kayla Brown's captivity, Todd Kolop not only tortured her but bragged about the numerous crimes he claimed to have committed. He allegedly boasted to Brown that he had taken the lives of almost 100 people and said he wanted to increase his body count. As the police delved into these claims, they were left shaken. Kolop was linked to at least 2 unsolved cases in the area. In 2003, he committed a mass shooting, murdering 4 people in a nearby motorsports store. But the case had remained unsolved for 13 years. Additionally, just months before Brown and Carver's disappearance, Kolop had hired a married couple to work on his property, subsequently killing the husband and subjecting the wife to a week of rape before finally shooting her. Both were buried in the graves he later showed to Kayla Brown. Then, perhaps the most disturbing facet of Kolop's crime spree was discovered. the online reviews he left for the tools and weapons used in his kidnappings and murders. This earned him the name Amazon Review Killer. In court, Todd Kohlhepp entered a guilty plea to 7 counts of murder, 2 counts of kidnapping, and 1 count of criminal sexual assault. The verdict brought 7 consecutive life sentences, making sure he remains incarcerated in Columbia, South Carolina. Dive into the harrowing stories of parents who tragically ended the lives of their own children, the ones entrusted to their care and protection. Get ready for a roller coaster of emotions, goosebumps, and heartbreak in our next video, when evil parents get arrested for taking their kids' lives.